Today, you are going to learn about the 5 inevitable problems and challenges every marriage faces, why they create that static, and what to do about them. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at I am Pat Ratliff and the Farm D Mommy. Drop that beat. Hey, welcome to On the Up and Up with Patrick and
Talisha.
First off, I want to say thank you everyone that supported us and subscribed and downloaded and listened to our first 3 episodes last week. We really, truly appreciate your support. We are really trying to put happy marriages on the map. And thank you guys for allowing us to do that with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you bunches. We really appreciate y'all. So if you're just joining us on this episode, go back and listen to episodes 0, 1, and 2 so that you can see what we're all about.
So before we get into our topic of discussion today, apparently on the internet and social media, there was a celebrity couple that was having some relationship issues and they decided to bring it out to the public. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, the entanglement of Jada Pinkett Smith and August Alsina. Will was there too.
Will was there too. So from the video clip that I saw, it looked like Jada was having some internal struggles with the just stuff that August had said on the Breakfast Club, I think, with Charlemagne. Mm-hmm. And he said that they were they had a very intimate relationship or whatnot. And again, when you put that type of news out in the world, people are going to start saying, hey, people going to have some questions and stuff. And I think that they dealt with this years ago, mm-hmm. but now it's kind of resurfacing since August went public with it. And I guess Jada decided, hey, I need to talk about this and put it on her show, The Red Table Talk, and bring Will onto this because the blogs and the streets was talking about him. So she was having a conversation with Will, and I guess they broke down what was happening, I guess for us. But my thing is, they didn't have to tell us anything. So,
well, they didn't have to tell us anything, but if they didn't tell us anything with the red table discussions, that everybody would be like, why Jada want to talk about this? Just talk about everything else.
Silencing the rumors or silencing the critics or whatever.
Exactly.
And all the judgment.
She wanted to tell her own story.
Control her narrative, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So, but I was watching the video and it was her and Will having a conversation. I think the kicker in this and her relationship with August was that we understand it. Well, in celebrity news, I guess the world understands that, oh, Will and Jada, they have this open marriage. And August had said in his interview that Will gave him permission to have a relationship with Jada. And by watching this video, it was like, oh, they were like completely separated on the verge of divorce, not even talking with each other. So,
right. So basically, from my understanding, yeah, they did have an open marriage. But Will didn't give her quote unquote permission to have this relationship or entanglement with August. I think it probably went down a road that Will didn't really expect it to go down because in my opinion on the video, Will looked pretty hurt. Like he looked like he was still really dealing with it. He's there, but he wasn't like the normal Will that I'm used to seeing.
The Fresh Prince, happy, jovial Will.
Right.
There's relationships, man. Relationships are tough, and they can hurt. So it basically like old feelings were brought up, even though they had even though they said they had resolved this. Like these feelings got brought up, and there was still some clarifying that needed to be done with the word entanglement. Oh, that's the word you're using, right?
Exactly. So I mean, I think that, I mean, it's really unfortunate that feelings were hurt in the mix. But in my opinion, if you have open marriage, what do you really expect? Sorry.
But do they really have an open marriage, or did we just say that? Was there like them saying, "Hey, we have an open marriage. You can go see who you want." What are the terms? Did they have terms? You receipts,
right? But they had an open marriage. That's always been Will and Jada have an open marriage.
Okay, and that's between them, to let other people in. But yeah, they were like, "Hey, we brought August in. He was hurting, and basically this was an internal thing with Jada. So apparently, at this point in time, her and Will were having difficulties in their marriage. She was not happy whatsoever, and I think Will was like, "I was done with you. I don't think at that point, I didn't think we were ever going to talk again, ever." Like, it was overdone, finito, not coming back to the point of no return. So she went and had a relationship.
It started off her trying to take care of August.
She
was sick.
Yeah, but that was just like, what do you call it? Self-reflection upon yourself, that you're the one.
Codependency.
Yeah, you're the one that's dependent, and you want to heal somebody else.
Yep.
So it's projected upon him. Mm-hmm. There we go. So she, in the video, she said, "I just wanted to be happy," or I just wanted. So trying to break that down from, I guess, our perspective. So, and this happens in relationships. So you have one person whose emotional needs aren't being met, right? And she goes outside to get those emotional needs met. Well, first they aren't being met, then they come to the decision that, hey, we're separated. And I guess once you separate, the door is still open, but Will was that really close to shutting it forever and going to the final steps of divorce, I guess. So while they were separated, this is when she had her entanglement with August. And the thing is, the reason why this is such a debate, it creates such a man versus woman, men versus women mentality on social media. So you got people posting, "Oh man, I bet if that was Will, you women would be all over him and he wouldn't get a second chance. But since it's Jada doing the quote unquote cheating, y'all giving her a pass. But if it was the shoe was on the other foot, then y'all be all over him." See how it is?
I mean, and to an extent, I do agree with that. I do believe that if it was Will, that it would be a bigger issue. Maybe because, I mean, I love Jada, but I love Will more. So, and I feel like, I don't know, everybody's invited Will into their home. Like, Will, that's like your brother. Like, if Will did that, it would feel worse. I don't know. When I think about Jada, I don't have that same reverence for Jada as I do for Will.
But if they had an open marriage, you can't get mad at Will either.
Well, you can't. But I'm just saying, I would still just feel a little bit some type of way.
It was just so interesting how this pulled people in. It's like, oh my goodness, because people, they're celebrities, they're in the public eye. They people hold them up to a higher light, and like, oh, that's the kind of, I want that relationship like Will and Jada. Okay, but people don't understand. Hey, this is marriage. No one is exempt from experiencing that pain, which we'll get into later. But going back to Jada, like, she had that emptiness. She was lost, and she had to go find herself because Will couldn't make her happy. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own happiness, your own healing. And they like I said, they mentioned therapy. They went through all the steps to get this thing fixed. But yeah, she had to find herself. You were lost, you had to find yourself. Right. But the interesting thing is that you get lost and you try to find yourself with external things, right? It's like, oh, my husband, there's no love for my husband. Oh, let me go find this love with August. Oh, that really wasn't it either. So what is it? Yeah.
And she also was dealing with some past traumas, apparently. And for that, I mean, yeah, she did say she had some therapy surrounding it, but maybe she hadn't actually had the moment or the opportunity to really like delve deep into therapy because she was clearly still hurting from that past trauma. So it sounded like from the red table topic that red table discussion, whatever.
Yeah.
It sounded like she had actually went there at that point in time. Like her therapy sessions had gotten more in depth.
Okay. So my Christian perspective is when you get lost, you try to go external and you don't look within. The only person who's really going to make you happy is finding Jesus, because her soul wasn't empty.
Right.
Her soul was empty. It was empty.
It needed to be filled.
You're trying to fill it up with other things.
Yep.
That's not going to keep you healed. Nothing is going to fill you up more than Jesus. We look for these worldly things that we think are going to make us happy, but that's where you need to search to find it. And it's always there. He's
always there.
My children, they're so lost. I'm just standing here waiting. I'm standing here waiting. When are you going to come to me? And that's what I think people should do when they feel lost. You can go find yourself, because he's always there to receive you and welcome you back and accept you, because that's why he created you. And you understand. And the great thing is that he understands that you are going to lose your way. You're going to lose your way. And also, how that ties into marriage. The beautiful thing about all this kerfuffle, all this pain, all this they were experiencing is that they were looking for a way out. They were unhappy with each other. But there are studies that say 2/3 of the people who are unhappy in their marriage, if they don't go to divorce and they stay in their marriage within 5 years, they'll be happy again. And the thing that keeps them tied and bound to that marriage is the vows that they speak at the altar. So they make this vertical covenant with the Lord, and they make this horizontal covenant with their husband or their wife. So if they weren't even in a relationship, if they weren't married to begin with, there would have been nothing to hold them and tie them together. The only thing that really kept them together was those vows, and they stood their ground till the storm passed over, because that storm is going to come for your marriage.
And it can look different.
Yeah, in one way or another, it's going to come for your marriage. And if you can just be still and wait for God to do his work, you can return to that happiness. But if they never said those vows, they were married, they gave them a free out to go and not be together again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So vows
mean something.
Brought that marriage together. And now apparently, I mean, they've been healed and they're working together. They brought it back up.
Brought it back up. And so someone tried to rip the Band-Aid off, but they are still together.
But that's why marriage is so powerful versus just being together or living together without those vows and that covenant that you make with God and your husband or your wife.
So that brings us to today's topic, the top 5 problems that are inevitable for every marriage.
You're going to face them no matter what you do, no matter how good your marriage is, no matter how good your chemistry is, no matter how great your life is. You will at some point in your marriage run into one of these problems. What's the first one, baby?
Money.
Always the money. It's all about the money,
all about
right?
The Benjamins, baby.
All about the Benjamins, all about the money. Like, what would you say would be like one of the first things that people might run into an issue with?
I mean, I think that our first thing that we ran into would have been like the banks, like the bank accounts, having a joint bank account.
Right. So I had my bank, which was like more of a local bank. And I like this bank. It was inherited from my mother's mother's, and we've been using this bank for a long time.
And I was like, no, I got my bank whenever we had game night at college, and they gave me a free bag, and they've been great ever since.
Oh, yeah. Those college predators going out there, hey, we're going to give you this credit card at 50%, and you can get this cool little bag with our logo on it.
Exactly.
Sign me up.
But I did. I mean, I became loyal to that brand, and they were available everywhere. We could go to any ATM, which was really important back then. And his, I was like, I never even heard of that before. So, yep, you come to mind.
Yeah, so I went to hers because I did have a local bank, and they didn't have ATMs everywhere. It was like, oh, you got to go about 30 minutes down the road to go find an ATM for this bank because they ain't everywhere.
Exactly. So, and going back to what you said about the college predators, yeah. So me and Patrick, we decided that we would get a credit card when we were in college because we wanted a Wii, and I wanted a Wii Fit. But we didn't have the money to pay for it.
Oh, the Nintendo system Wii. Okay, yeah.
So we decided to get this credit card, and when I tell you, when it was all said and done, I know we paid for the stupid Wii every bit of 2 to 3 times the price of what it really should have been.
Yeah, it was $200. You end up paying doggone $1,000 for a $250 system. So the credit card debt is stupid.
But it happened before we got married. But it was something that we could use in our marriage to be like, oh, remember when we got that Wii back in college? So, but yeah, so back to the joint bank accounts. So I know some couples have separate bank accounts, and that might work for them. But for us, we just decided that whenever we go into our marriage, that we wanted to go all in, and that we wanted to. Patrick's over here making fun of me, y'all, because anytime someone says all in, I say no reference, because we are not Clemson fans. We are Gamecock fans through and through.
We are, but all in, it did work for Clemson, and I respect it.
Okay.
I hate Clemson with all my heart and all my soul, even though I have a degree from Clemson. But yeah, but all in, it's a great phrase.
It's a great phrase, but it is no reference to Clemson. Thank you very much. So, anyways, we decided that we would go all in and join money. So, for us, that just really worked because, for one, when we got married, I was in school. I didn't have any money. So, it was all Patrick's money. I had some loans to come into the play, but no money.
Oh yeah, talking about financial problems, like your partner and spouse, they might come in with a whole bunch of baggage. I mean, a whole bunch of baggage, and you're looking at this like this is the biggest dollar amount I've ever seen in my life. What are we gonna do?
Exactly. And see, for Patrick, thankfully, Mr. and Mrs. Ratliff were able to have him set up for undergrad. Like, he didn't have any loans. Yeah, exactly. Shout out to my awesome, amazing sister, Shannon, who was smart enough to get scholarships through college. And my parents didn't have to come out of the pocket that much because I was not that good of a student. So because they didn't have to pay much for her education, they were able to use all the money that they pretty much saved up to pay for my undergrad education. So thank you. That's why I love my sister so much. She basically was looking out for my financial future as she was going through college. So shout out to my sister, Shannon. Yep. Thank you, Shannon, because it affected me as well. So since Patrick didn't have any loans, have no fear, I had enough for both of us.
Yeah, so if your partner or your spouse, they come into the marriage and they do have a lot of debt, we were prepared for that. We were like, all right, cool, let's join our bank accounts. We're going to tackle this debt together. But when they do come in with that debt, that's going to affect some decisions that you have to make at the beginning. So for example, we started out living in an apartment, and I was completely fine living in an apartment because I was listening to Dave Ramsey all the time. He was like, don't you move into a house until you are debt free. Until you are debt free, don't you move out of that apartment. You got debt. You ain't ready for a house. You ain't ready for that financial commitment. You better be all debt free so you can put 20% down and you can get a 15-year fixed and you can get out of that debt as fast as possible. But Talisha was like, we need to get out of this apartment. The rates keep going up. And so we we need to look into a house because sometimes the house mortgage payment will be cheaper than the rent payment. Well, I was like, that ain't what Dave said. So we decided to call Dave.
Patrick decided that I should call Dave. And he said, if Dave says that we can get a house, then we can get a house. I was like, okay, I'll call Dave. He's okay. So I called. The producers put me on the line quickly. Dave yelled at me and he told me that we should not get a house.
Because she said her debt number. She was like, hey, my student loans are this much.
But at the end of the day, I already had that debt. I mean, I couldn't be a pharmacist without it because I didn't have the capital to put up during pharmacy school. So I had to get the loans. So it was just like, okay.
It's how you sounded on the call. You said that debt number, and Dave absolutely lost it. And I promise, it's on YouTube. We're going to try to find that link, and we're going to put that YouTube link in the notes.
And then we'll let y'all be the judge of if I sounded, quote unquote, nonchalant or not. It was a debt that I already received. I had already committed to. And now I got to pay for it. But guess what? We're going to still get this house.
And it did work out. It ended up like the mortgage ended up being like $200 cheaper a month versus the rent. Because the rent, they just kept coming up in the apartment. It was like,
why? We're paying extra money for a garage because I couldn't have any place to park. It was too much. Yeah. Freaking little cats coming after me. We'll go into that later. I'm very afraid of cats, deathly.
So ultimately, the decision, it did work out. We didn't take Dave's advice fully, but yeah, y'all have different financial philosophies. You guys might have completely different financial philosophies, and that can cause y'all to butt heads a lot of times in the relationship. What else?
And then Dave also, we did go through Financial Peace University, and so Dave kind of talked to us about what's a free spirit versus a nerd. And so it's like someone who spends a lot versus someone who wants to save a lot. And I think our roles kind of can change and it fluctuates back and forth because sometimes I'm a free spirit and sometimes Patrick is a free spirit. And there's other times where I'm like, no, we need to do this budget meeting. And Patrick's like, nah, I don't want to do a budget meeting.
When you get to the budget meeting, you get threatened and things like that or something. He's like, you about to spend what on what? No, you ain't. Oh, yes, I am. I need. And you're fighting for whatever hobby or material that you want to get. But that's why you have to. But because it becomes a we, and you just can't be going buying stuff all willy nilly. And when you do go buy stuff all willy nilly, it can cost the family. You have to start thinking about how does it cost the team and not just yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Because the other thing is like, I'm not saying that you have to go ask for quote unquote permission to do it. It's just you need to have a conversation about it before you do it. And especially when it's a big ticket item, that's whenever we really want to have a conversation. Like if it's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Five Guys and get a $10 burger.
Right. Why we gotta use Five Guys? We're a healthy couple. No, we're not. I'm lying.
Hey. I love Five Guys. And you love Five Guys.
I went on a Firehouse sub, like,
oh my goodness,
bender.
Yes. And those subs were like $12 each because he gets the big one. He don't get the little one. No. So we had to reel that back in. And even though that seemed like a small purchase, whenever you go get it every day, yeah, it's a lot. And then Tropical Grill for dinner. Go ahead, tell the people.
Trying to be healthy, man. Well, Tropical Grill is like one of the few healthy meals that you can get that's like from a restaurant without cooking, man. So that's why I did that.
And he doesn't really want me to cook for him. Why not?
We'll get down to that.
Okay.
Man, we'll get there. We'll get there later.
Fine. So what other things, as far as money, that can be a big problem for people?
We talked about financial philosophies. Another thing with the separate, the bad. Someone comes in with bad credit and you guys try to go out there and get a loan or something like that. And you're going to be mad at your partner. Like, why your credit so goddamn bad? We can't get a doggone thing. We can't get a car. We can't get a house. We can't get a credit card to even build our credit. So if the the person with the good credit, you got to put the person with the bad credit on. You just got to help them bring their credit along the way. But that's going to cause an argument, because if you only get the house in your name or the car in your name, that's going to create some friction with that other person. It's like they might be envious of the husband or the wife. It just happens. Like, and like I said, inevitably, these problems are going to come up financially in your marriage. And like I said, and because it'll be one person might say, I want to handle all the finances. And then one person says, oh, well, my husband or my wife, they handle all that. They handle all the bills. And
they might think it's being handled.
They might think it's being handled, and they embezzling funds. They going out there buying. They might have an addiction. They might have a
whole nother family on the side.
That you don't even know about, because y'all aren't coming together to tackle the finances, and that's pretty much the problems that you have in finances.
Wait, one more. So tithes.
Oh, family philosophy.
On tithes. Yeah, because that was a big one for us. Because I grew up, like, my first job I got, my dad was like, okay, you do 10% for tithes. That comes off the top. And that's just been my philosophy all throughout my life. And then I married Patrick, and he was like, wait a minute, but the tithes go up when you became a pharmacist. So I don't know if we should be doing 10%.
Because I'm like, we ain't got no goddamn money to be paying the tithes. Like, well, that's a lot of money if we take that to somewhere else. But thanks to the Dave course, I figured out what tithes was really for, like, historically. So tithes was like to like help the widows and the children in the church. And then that changed my whole philosophy on tithes. All right, we paying tithes no matter what. But I really didn't have any knowledge of tithes. I thought church was just taking that money to pay for them new pastor's shiny suits.
and fancy cars.
And them fancy cars. I was like, heck no, you ain't getting my bread. So, but that was my perception of the tithes growing up. So I was like, you ain't getting my money, man. I'm still sinning.
All right, so now we can move on to the next one. So the next one is intimacy. And because people really struggle with the definition, we're going to give y'all a definition. So Webster says that intimacy is the state of being intimate. Thanks, Webster, for using the word in the word. Familiarity or something of personal or private nature.
So couples are going to run into intimacy issues no matter what. You're going to run out of the honeymoon phase, and that fire, that passion is going to dwindle a little bit. It's going to go from a big flame to a little teeny tiny flame. And that is eventually going to happen, but but both of you are still going to have that emotional need of love. You're both going to need that love. And if that thing getting filled up, that's when it's going to have conflict in your marriage. So I thought intimacy was like straight up like romance and doing the do. And, but it's more than that. Yeah.
You got to have emotional intimacy as well.
Right.
So just like making sure that you're there to support your partner emotionally, not just physically.
Yeah, and you got to have that connection together. So it's basically those deep late night talks where you're staying up late at night, and you just going into your childhood and what made you who you are, and you sharing your story with your husband or your wife, and why you have these feelings and what made you. And that builds the marriage. But what can happen, what the problem can happen is when someone's shut off emotionally due to maybe a trauma or something, and then your husband or wife is like, why won't they open up to me? Or some men, mostly men, believe like, man, I ain't opening up. I'm not about to look weak. That is soft, because our society portrays like, hey, man, you got to hide that stuff. You can't be out here crying and stuff. You look like this weakness. It's weakness. And that can be based on how you grew up as a child. But if you never share that with your wife, she won't understand. Like she'll be thinking like, why is your heart so hard?
Yeah.
Why is it like stone cold?
Okay. With the wrestling reference. So Patrick, I think that he actually is one of the guys who is not so stone cold. And
hold up now, I'm tough now. I ain't out here crying.
He's staying on crybaby, but he will be emotionally vulnerable. And I think that it's important for our kids to see that because we have 2 boys. Right. So like making sure that you're not like being too hard for like our like letting Weston know it's okay to cry. You're sad. It's okay to cry.
Depends what you crying about.
Well, everything right now because he's 2. So because we're going to talk about kids, what about kids sleeping in your bed? How does that tangle up intimacy?
Oh, that's a big one. It's kind of hard to be intimate with the kid, like rolling over your body and kicking you in the face, sleeping at night. Because they won't go to sleep. Yeah, like letting the kids in the bedroom. Like you got to set those boundaries up front. At least when they're ready to go sleep on their own. When you got the 9 and 10-year-old in your bed, there's a wrap.
But my baby's gonna sleep in my bed.
The baby can sleep in your bed. You can chill out on the bedroom for like 6 months because I think that's like surgical. That's like doctor's recommendation anyway. Maybe 6 months because you don't want no accident in between. You don't want an accident in between coming up with baby number 2 or 3. Yeah. And it's like, oops, that was a mistake. You don't want no accidents either.
And what about like people who have quote unquote work husbands and work wives?
Oh, breaching the intimacy or trust.
Yeah.
The work husband and work wives. It can work. It depends what kind of conversation you have with your husband or wife.
Yeah.
Like some people are like, the only husband and wife is you and me, not that work husband and wife. Some people can joke around with it, but then some people, they let them cross that line and you end up talking more about your work husband or your work wife more than you do your real husband and wife. Yeah. And that's going to create some heat there too.
Create some heat. And I think that it's fine to have a relationship with a person of the opposite sex at work. But for me, I don't want the label of, oh, that's my work husband or that's my work wife.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, that ain't gonna fly. Yeah, you can't be anything that breaches the intimacy in your relationship. That's a breach. That's a breach, and you can't let that happen. But it might. It's going to happen some way down the road because it's about the close. Like you said, what's the definition? Closeness or whatever. If you with that person at work all the time, it's not always gonna be about work. Because who wants to talk about work all day? But you gotta make sure they better love your freaking husband or wife more than they even love you. Because you better be at work talking about your husband and your wife more than you be talking about yourself. They better be like, oh, okay, they love their wife. Oh, I know more. Like, when they come to the company party, they come to the company party like, oh my God, I know all about you, man. You are the superstars. So they want to be friends. They feel like they know you when you come to the Christmas party. Not when you come to the Christmas party, be like, oh, I ain't know they was married. Oh, you dead in the water right there. You might as well go ahead and leave the Christmas party because you done.
Yes. So, as far as intimacy goes, Patrick, he reads all the time. So he read the book about love languages. Mm-hmm. I think that should go into intimacy. What do you think?
Yeah, speaking your partner's love language. So there's like 5 love languages. I don't know how to sound educated on this because I don't have the book right in front of me, but it is gifts. That's someone's love language. Physical touch, affirmations, acts of service. There's one more I can't really pick up on. I forgot, but yeah. But you got to be listening to your partner's love language because when you speak their love language, it can be filling their tank. And if you're not speaking their love language, it's going to take away from their tank. And when that love tank is empty, that's when they're going to try to go get it filled from someone else.
Mm-hmm. So we like to watch the show Married to Medicine. Mm-hmm. And Imani on Married to Medicine, she said that she and her husband had not been intimate for 5 years.
5 years.
So how long is too long? Because I think 5 years, that's
way
a
too long
time.
You're done. You're done. That's not a relationship.
Which is why they're getting a divorce.
And this is exactly why they're getting a divorce.
Well, I'm not going to say that that's the whole reason they're getting a divorce, but when I hear they're getting a divorce and I hear they haven't been intimate for 5 years, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's not a real marriage.
No, it's not.
Even if your partner even something happens to them where they're physically disabled and you're not able to be like physically romantic with them, you can still be intimate with that person. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to all be physical. And when you're not intimate at all, you're not building that connection.
Yeah.
When you're disconnected. Totally. And when you're disconnected, you're not plugged in, the electricity's not there, the device won't work.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, so this particular couple on the show, they're separate as far as their locations where they live. Yeah. And I still think that you can still maintain intimacy even if you're in a long distance relationship.
Especially today with FaceTime and Zoom and all that stuff, you can actually see their face. So I go on the road. I'm a traveling trainer and I'll be gone 4 days of the week sometimes. I always FaceTime my family. I always FaceTime my wife. So I got to see your face. I got to see your beautiful face.
Well, I'm glad because I want to see your beautiful face.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just works. And it's no excuse to be like, oh, well, we're not close because we're not physically close in the same location. That's no excuse. Mm-hmm. So that brings us to our next one, which is communication. Because going back to being on the road or being out of town, I had to fight for that communication because somebody over here doesn't like to talk on the phone.
Yeah, when I'm on vacation.
It don't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on vacation, work. It doesn't matter. You talk to me on the phone.
No.
Not the whole time. Wait. Not the whole time. But I want a conversation of sustenance. I want to be heard, even if it's just to tell you what I ate.
That's good and all, but we're on I'm on a vacation. I'm hanging out with like my friends or something like that, and you're hanging out with your friends. It just sounds like you ain't got nothing to do when you at home.
No, I do have something to do, but I'm choosing to take the time out to talk to you.
So what she talking about is like, all right, so when she goes on a vacation to celebrate her girls' like milestones or wherever they go out, I have the philosophy, hey, look, you ain't got to call me. Go enjoy your time. You've been working super hard. You don't have to check in with me or anything.
It's not checking in.
You just definitely checking in.
It's not checking in. It is, hey, how's it going?
And that's all you need.
I'm thinking about you.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But I you don't have to call me because, shoot, when they out the house, I'm like, oh my gosh, my parents have disappeared, like Home Alone or something. And I'm running around like a Home Alone kid. I get to do all this stuff around the house, man. I ain't even thinking about you on your vacation out with your girls. Y'all go out and have a doggone fantastic time. I'm busy at home making my dreams come true sometimes. In the house, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so good. Because sometimes the break is awesome, and I hope you're out there having a good time. Don't even think about me. Just go out there and be free and have a great time. You call me, but you be trying to call me. I'm at home. You on vacation. I'm like, you trying to have a full hour conversation with me.
I have to lead by example. I have to show you. See, whenever you go on vacation, you can still have a great time with your friends, but you need to call and check on your boo.
That's cool. Check on me. Say, hey, how you doing? What's up? Don't tell me what you ate. You can't. You can tell me what. You have a lot of details in your story.
I like to have details, and it's not checking up on. It's just checking on. Not checking in, checking on.
I'll be like in the middle of watching some great documentary or some great wrestling match or some great fight. And
that you've probably already seen.
That's not true. Everything's live and everything's new with me.
Okay. So, but for real, communication, you have to also communicate like your expectations. So for me, an expectation is if you go on vacation, like, I want you to call me and don't give me a 2 or 3 minute call. I want at least 10, 15 minutes. For me, I don't think that that's too much to ask. But again, that's my expectation. So I'm going to let him know what my expectation is. So whenever he calls me and talks to me for 2 or 3 minutes, I don't feel salty after we hang up the phone. And now I'm mad at him and like, well, what are they doing there? He's so busy.
You mad because you ain't got nothing to do.
If I'm not on vacation, I probably don't have anything to do.
No, that's when you get caught up and do stuff. I'm not in the house. I'm not getting on your nerves. I'm not doing nothing to you. This is your perfect time to go out there and do something. This is pre-kids, by the way.
Yeah,
ain't no vacations with kids.
Shoot. No. We used to travel the world. Okay, we used to travel the United States.
Keep going on. All right, communication. What else? We gonna get to that part in a second.
Okay. What about like setting up rules for debate?
Debate? You mean fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So inevitability. I'm gonna stop using inevitable.
I will be the insert. Inevitability. That's right.
That's a word? Okay.
Inevitability.
You're going to ultimately, that's what I'm going to say. You're going to ultimately run into communication problems. So fighting, you have to set those ground rules because you're always going to be fighting. Some people just don't know how to communicate.
And that causes a fight.
And it
might even be something little.
Yeah, and y'all don't have any rules in your fighting. Like, y'all don't have any, like, regulation. Like, some people might just go hit under the belt every single time, and they go for that gut punch, and they're trying to hurt their husband or wife, and they're not trying to get to that compromise or that solution with their husband and wife. They're mad, they're caught up in their feelings, and they are going for blood against the person that you vowed to spend the rest of your life with. So you're trying to break them down, and that ultimately deteriorates the marriage.
Yeah. And then if you have somebody that's always hitting below the belt, then the other person is not going to want to have any difficult conversation. When something comes up, they're going to just kind of hold it to themselves rather than bring it up to their partner.
Because they know how they're going to react. And they just like, oh, it's better to avoid it than to even bring it up because it's going to be painful.
And in love, there is some pain, which is why we're talking about these topics in the first place.
Yeah, communication. You have to set those communication rules early and often. First of all, you need to communicate early and often.
Because even though we've been married for 8 years, we still cannot read each other's mind.
Can't read each other's mind.
Even though we've been together for 18 years. We cannot read each other's mind.
Even though you should be able to by now. And that's the problem. We think you should. We think you should be able to read my mind.
Expectations.
Because I think both of us is that if you don't know this about me by now.
Okay, that's not reading your mind. There are expectations like, okay, I know that Patrick doesn't like hot coffee. He likes cold coffee. Okay, easy. That's not me reading your mind.
But guess what? Sometimes she'll be like, you're going to get this hot coffee.
Oh, yeah, because
whether you like
it
or not,
takes my good, expensive cold coffee and leaves it right there for the ice to melt in and for it to just dwindle and go to waste. And we ain't doing that. Nope. You will get the hot coffee.
So sometimes you have to step up and tell your wife who's forcing the hot coffee down your throat that I don't want the hot coffee, ma'am. Please don't give me the hot coffee. I don't prefer the hot coffee. So you have to have the courage to speak up, even though they might be mad at you, even when you don't want the hot coffee because you prefer the cold coffee.
So in communication, you can also have a lack of understanding or like a lack of being flexible. So it's
stubbornness. That stubbornness, man.
And I'm not really stubborn, y'all, I promise.
No, we're not stubborn. We have communication tools that we have from our coaching school that helps us with our communication. Ultimately, the solution is like you got to get to the root. You have to get to the root of the issue, especially with anger. We learned that anger is always a secondary emotion. It's not ever the primary emotion. So when someone's angry, you have to dig deeper and find out, all right, what was the cause of the anger? It's not anger. You just don't come out and be angry. It's because you were hurt or you got betrayed. There's always something that causes that anger or something hit a button that you had. So you're not just coming out and being angry. You have to get to the root. And once you get to the root, you can build that bridge of communication to see why that person was angry in the first place.
Yeah. And with that, with like building that bridge, you have to also be mindful in your marriage to not continuously bring up the past.
Ooh.
Because sometimes, there might be some past situation, and that's like, oh, if this situation comes up, this might go too. And it's like you're constantly bringing it up. Like, you have to let that person show you something else for it to be brought up.
Mm-hmm. Right? Shout out to Will and Jada bringing up that old stuff, opened up old wounds. That's fighting dirty, man. Mm-hmm. So on another note, lying. Is withholding the truth the same as lying?
Yes, it is a lie by omission.
Lie by omission. But is it lying
yes.
if the right question wasn't asked and that person didn't give up that information? Is that lying?
Yes, that's lying. Because if someone says, hey, Patrick, were you wearing a blue shirt? And you say, no, but you were wearing a turquoise shirt. Okay, well, yeah, you had on a blue shirt.
Nah.
Yeah.
Man, if you don't ask the right questions, you ain't got to answer, and that's not considered lying.
No, that's a lie. Absolutely not. I do not agree with that. It is a lie by omission.
So the point is, I don't really have a point right there. That's just always a debate that we used to have back and forth, and it just used to be very, very funny. But it used to make her super, super mad. It was like, cause I don't give up. I just don't have that many details in my story. It was like, oh shoot, such and such was there, but you ain't asked that, so I ain't tell you that such and such was there. I was like, oh, okay. And then you find out such and such was there, and then you dead.
Oh, exactly. Because you were withholding information, and what was the purpose of withholding the information? Were you not telling me because why?
Yeah, but you gotta just divulge all your information. And speaking of like divulging information, we decided a while back in our relationship that we were going to share the locations of each other in our phone. That's due to safety reasons. But right. I think everybody should share the location in your phone, because if you're not hiding anything, what if y'all agree to it? But
if y'all agree to it. I mean, like you said, for us it was a safety thing. Like Patrick, I didn't know where he was, and his phone wasn't working. He was in a place where he didn't have a good enough signal. Mm-hmm. And so I'm expecting him home at a certain time, and like an extra hour and a half passes. I still don't hear from him. 2 hours passes. Okay, now I'm writing you a note saying, hey, I went to go look for you. Mm-hmm. I drove the route because I'm scared I'm going to come by some accident, and you're going to be like on the freaking side of the road. So if something's wrong with your phone, like contact me on Facebook, because I guess that just speaks to like me and my
paranoia.
Time I go, because I want everybody to be accounted for.
Yeah, so we share locations. We share locations. It's fantastic, because then when I see her near like a restaurant or something, I'll be like, hey, pick me up the Five Guys. I see you by Five Guys. Yeah. So go ahead and before you come home, and then you can act like you never saw my message or something like that because you're not paying attention. I was like, you walk in the door without the Five Guys. I'm like, whoa,
if you send your spouse a text message and they don't respond back, then they probably didn't see it.
Man, you saw it. It said delivered. It say delivered on the text message, so I know you got it.
Yeah, I don't have my phone say if it's read or not, because sometimes I read things and I respond in my head.
You respond in the head. It's like, oh, I sent it back, but you typed it in the message and never hit send.
Yeah, my friends can attest to that. I am not a solid text messenger, so that is not my most valuable way of communicating.
That's not your preferred way. It's not the most reliable way.
No. Not at all.
So, you need to know that about your spouse, too. What's their preferred method of communication so that you know that you can get to them. So, what else? What's another problem that people will ultimately, not inevitably, have in their relationship?
Change.
That's a big one. Change. Because the only constant is change, right? Mm-hmm. So, the marriage is always going to be changing. One person is always going to be changing things. It can be external things coming from the outside into your marriage, or things changing from within your marriage. What are some things that we got that can happen?
Like a new job. We're going through that right now.
Yeah, transitioning.
So transitioning to a new job and just trying to figure out like new schedules and like what's the new normal. Mm-hmm. Because having a new job, that impacts a ton of different things.
Financial,
Yep.
communication.
So some other changes that we went through is whenever Patrick decided to go back to school and whenever he opened up coaching.
Yeah, so in like 2013, like a year after we got married, my career was just like, it was a great career, best job I ever had, but it just wasn't fulfilling inside. And I knew I wanted to, if I was going to advance, that I would have to get like a MBA and get that ceiling off my head. So I had went back to school, and I knew that I wanted to do it before I got kids, or we had kids, because if you're trying to go through grad school, full-time job, and kids, the stress levels would just be off the charts. So I did that. That was a part of a change. Talisha helped finance my master's in business administration. That was not in part of Dave Ramsey's plan that we had.
So the tables got to turn because he supported me while I was in school, and then it was my turn to support our family while he was in school.
So fortunately, I was able to do grad school without any student loan debt. And so by the time I turned 30, I had my MBA. Little did I know that I was going to completely go off the corporate career track and just leave corporate America altogether and start my own business. That's another change. So now we had to rely on just one income while I started to build up the business. And yeah, those are changes that you guys are going to have to go through. What's some other changes?
Yeah. And I mean, just working through it together. And whenever you have a change, just realizing that this is something new, is something that you've never experienced before. So being really like just giving yourself some grace, because it's not going to be perfect as soon as that change starts.
Yeah, because we had to change our whole lifestyle.
Right. Like totally. So some other changes that people might just go through is maybe like self-development.
Self-development, personal development, what you mean?
Like self-help. so
okay.
Whenever people are trying to better themselves, like they might read books, like, you know what I mean? You're not the same person that you were when you got married. You're going to grow. You're going to become better, hopefully.
So like 10 years into your marriage, you're not the same person you were when you first got married. At least you hope not. Right. Hopefully there was some level of growth, but in change, it's like, all right, one person might start growing. They might have a new perspective on life, or some events might have happened to them where they're like, okay, let me rethink how I was going about life to make life a little bit less stressful, a little bit easier to go through. And if they see that their partner isn't like developing and seeing that way, and they just want to go through the motions and don't want to change anything to get better, that's going to create a lot of resentment for that person who's really trying to change and make their marriage better. But at the same time, if you're in love, your love has to be patient with that person too, and try to help them develop without having that frustration. It's like, well, this person is not trying to grow, because you're either growing or you're dying. And you want to bring that person along with you, so you don't want to leave them behind. And what are some other things about change?
People who, so that kind of brings us to like a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis. So when I was trying to go back to grad school, I was at that quarter life crisis where my whole life I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to college, I went to grad school, I got the great job, but I still was not happy. I got married to my high school sweetheart. I had everything that I wanted to have, and on paper, on the outside world, I was looking fantastic. Like I had it all together, but internally something wasn't there. I didn't have that purpose. I didn't have anything like pulling me towards God's plan. And I had to go to an anxiety specialist, and I was like having huge fears, and we had one terrible New Year's Eve night back in 2012. And we might talk we might have to talk about on another show, but that was like my bottom point. I was like, oh, I need to do something, because you had like demons inside of you that you haven't confronted, or that you haven't tried to overcome. So that was my quarter life crisis before anyone ever put a label on the quarter life crisis. Like your partner might be going through some kind of quarter life crisis, or if you're older, at midlife crisis, and they might be doing things that seem completely irrational to you. And you're like, what is going on with this person? But you have to understand that because they're going through a change or transition in their life. Right. And for me being there to be able to support him, be like, wait a minute, that is not Patrick. Where is this coming from?
And my behaviors weren't bad. I just wasn't that happy, jovial person that I normally am. I was just like, I was always stuck in my own head, and I just wasn't being the best person that I could be. I wasn't like treating her bad or anything. I just wasn't. Well, you're not like the happy guy that I always know. What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Because you can see Patrick whenever he's thinking about something.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. You can see the wheels turning. Literally, his temples, they just go to pulsating. I'm telling the people. They can't see you. I have to tell them. Yes, when he's thinking about something, you can literally see it. So I had to be like, what are you thinking about? And once you have been with your spouse or partner for long enough, you're going to know when they're not a normal self. So.
Yeah, I was going through a transition. What are some other transitions? What are other changes people go through?
So I think that the biggest change that we went through in our marriage would be having kids.
Oh my goodness, yes.
They change everything.
And so the change is kids, and that goes into our next issue that you're going to ultimately encounter as a married couple is family.
So before you get married, it is so important to have the conversation with your spouse. Are we going to have kids? Or do we not want to have kids? And the answer can change, of course. But if before you get married, you say, we're going to have kids, and then you get married and then like, nah, I think I'm good. I think that would probably cause a lot of tension in the marriage.
A lot of friction, a lot of static in the marriage about that.
So we, of course, talked about it. We've had like baby names since we were 16 years old.
You've had baby names.
So we have had baby names. Now, granted, our kids are not named any of the names that we came up with, but we knew that we wanted to have kids. We knew we wanted to be parents. It just seemed like something that we wanted to do. However, we wanted to wait. And so you, of course, have people who are going to try to influence you, Ariel, into having kids faster than you might be ready to.
Yeah, all the old people in church. When you gonna have kids, baby?
Oh,
Why you been married how long? You ain't had no kids, baby?
You just got married yesterday. When y'all gonna have some kids?
I need some grandbabies now. I want some grand aunts, grand nieces, or some great uncle nephews, whatever. What is it?
Great uncle nephews.
What is it? I want some grand nephews or some crowd. Whatever, man. You know what I'm talking
kids.
about.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so in our family, we so I have a sister. And then Patrick has a sister. So because we decided to wait, it's not like our kids were going to be the first grandkids.
Yeah.
So that was fine. But in having kids, it did like show us how important traditions are. Like, do we want to keep some of the same old traditions that we've had that we grew up with? Do we want to create our own? What's going to stay? What's going to go?
Yeah, and it's all encompassed in your marriage. So. And let me just say, before we had kids, we were having a blast. Nothing is better than just saying, hey, you want to go on a trip this weekend?
Yeah.
Or let's just leave for a week. And we just took off. Oh, we traveled the whole United States. We got to go anywhere we wanted to go. Yep. That was 4 years of marital bliss. Like we extended the honeymoon 4 solid years. And it was
great.
Absolutely glorious. But when you have kids, the dynamic changes. So so what I want to just say, and in those 4 years, we've been together like 10 years before that. So like 14 years together before we even have kids. So we had time to build our solid marriage foundation. And I love to use this analogy when you have kids, because picture your marriage as a house. And when you have kids, they are the big bad wolf. And if your house is made up of straws or sticks, those kids, they're the big bad wolf. They are going to huff and puff and blow your house all the way down. But if your marriage is built solid, like you're the third pig who built it up of bricks, then when those big bad wolves come to blow your house down, it'll be able to withstand that adversity.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy. We love our kids. Don't get us wrong.
We love our kids, but we haven't been there before. We have never been there before. There is no manual on how to raise kids, and it is something new, and it's not anything that you want to go through by yourselves. Shout out to all the single. We have a whole new respect for single parents out there because I have no idea how you guys do it by yourselves. You guys put on your cape every single day and raise those kids by yourself. Glory to all of you out there.
Yes, because it is a hard task. When Patrick's out traveling and I have my kids, I go stay with my parents because I ain't doing this by myself. Nope, not happening. So, as far as kids from a previous relationship, like, we don't have that in our marriage in particular, but I would imagine that would definitely make some hiccups possibly.
Definitely changes the dynamic of your relationship and what kind of rules and boundaries that must be set up before that. But like I said, it goes back to how solid of the foundation are you building? Because so when you do get married, like I said, the other person's kids, they gonna be that big bad wolf. If your foundation isn't solid, they're gonna blow your house down. That's what it all comes down to. That's the solution to that, is building a solid marriage with good communication and good boundaries and good rules, man.
Mm-hmm. So one of our rules is, if we have a problem with the other person's family, so like our in-laws, then
which we don't.
We don't. But if there's any issue that does come up, then it's that person's responsibility to go talk to their family. Because if you're coming in as the in-law to come have this difficult conversation and your spouse is sitting over there chilling, then the in-law's going to be like, what's their problem? Mm-hmm. So we always try our very best to, if there's any riff, that we, as the person who belongs to that family... You
talk to your own parents. You talk to your own. You talk to your own siblings. You talk to your own aunts. You talk to your own uncles. Don't send your spouse out there having them settle the dispute, whatever. Because your family, you're like, well, I don't like them. I don't care. I don't like them. It don't matter.
Oh yeah. See, that brings up another thing. So if you have a problem with your spouse, don't go talking to your in-laws or to your family about your spouse, because they're gonna be mad at him still.
Yeah, you're gonna forgive your spouse, but since you brought that to them, they're gonna think about that situation every single time y'all come to a family function. So you got to keep your stuff in house. You got to protect your marriage at all costs. You let the flies in. Don't leave that door open. Let them flies in.
Don't do it. And then always defend your spouse. I mean, sometimes they're wrong.
They be wrong. They be super wrong.
But guess what? Defend them.
Yeah, I'm not trying to defend the other person because I have to live with my spouse. I was like, I don't give a darn. My rule is, I'm not sleeping with that person. I don't give a darn I don't care what you think.
And if they're wrong, then you can tell them that they were wrong when y'all get back home. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But don't be out here like, oh, yeah, no. I agree with the other person. Yeah. And just leave your spouse out.
Your debate skills better be polished, because you might be out there defending a murderer out there, and you don't know.
Married, so
but
it's okay.
You married. You might have to be the best defense lawyer of all time. You got the Johnny Cochran. You got to be Johnny Cochran out there for your spouse. Yep. But then in close quarters, you be like, hey man, what was that?
So whenever we had Weston, it was the very next tax season. We had to go and get our taxes done. I was struggling. We went to this guy and I left a very important document, maybe the W-4. It's kind of important to have when someone's doing your taxes. But guess what? I had a new baby. And I was just trying to survive.
All he said was, oh, you're missing that document?
No, he had such judgment and criticism in his voice.
I was like, okay, it'd be hard to do your taxes without this document. And then Talisha just lost it.
I had to ask him, do you have kids?
Like, you got kids? You got kids?
And he said, I have a niece or a nephew. And I said, no, do you have kids?
Blew up on my man.
I was on edge. I was just like, but if you don't have kids, then you don't understand. Obviously, we didn't come to this meeting unprepared on purpose. Don't judge me. Do not come for me until you have kids.
And see, I didn't say, look, I knew he wasn't coming for her. It was like, oh, she on edge. It was like, yeah, I had her back. But then when we got in that car, I was like, ma'am, really? Really? You got kids? You got kids? What was that?
I needed to know because clearly he didn't have kids because he didn't understand. And I got him the document as soon as we got back home.
What other family issues people gonna have? I pray because we see fighting over like your family and spending time with the kids. How much time are the in-law or the grandparents? Who the A grandparents? Who the B grandparents? And all that other jazz. Like people have like, oh well, this kid loves me better. Who out there giving better gifts and stuff? Like you have all that bickering. Like I don't want to go to that Thanksgiving. I don't want to do no Secret Santa. I don't want to exchange the gifts because if I get their name, they cheap and they ain't giving good gifts.
Hey.
So I'm not participating in it at all.
Nope, because Secret Santa has rules and you need to follow the rules of Secret Santa. Doggone. If I'm out here giving people what they ask for, I expect to get what I ask for too. Thank you.
Shout out to Amazon for fixing all that with the Amazon gift card. Just put the dollar amount on there, and then everyone can be happy. Everyone can be happy. Yeah. What other family stuff do you got?
What about church?
Church tradition. Your family. Yeah, that's a huge one. That's absolutely huge. Are you going to go to the same church? Or are you going to build a new church? Or are you going to go to your spouse's church and they're just going to completely take over what you believed in your whole life? And you're going to join them for the rest of their lives and you're going to have to convert. You're going to have to convert and drink from their Kool-Aid.
See, you sound salty. You sound salty as if you don't love going to my church, which is now our church.
Yeah, if you have say-so. If you have some buy-in in it.
You got buy-in.
I have a little bit of buy-in, but yes, I love the church now.
Yeah, but if you wouldn't have been pushed, you would have never learned anything about the church. You wouldn't have had the opportunity to grow with the church. Now look at you.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good now. Yeah. Sometimes your spouse knows what's better for you than you know for yourself. And you just have to keep getting drugged there. Week after week after week after week after week after week in the same car and just recognize, that's another family tradition. So my family, man, when we all came of age to be able to drive, we all went our separate ways. Because one thing in my family, shout out to my daddy and my sister and my mom, rest in peace, that we could not stand being on other people's time. So when we would be at church, man, my mom would just talk after church all doggone day. And if we drove in the same car, my dad would just lose it because he ready to go somewhere. He ready to go to the YMCA and go start swimming or something. My sister, she got something to do. She want to go hang out with her friends. She's a teenager. And me, when I was little, I had to stay there with my mom and I just had to be the victim. But as soon as I got in my car, I'm like, boom, I'm going and I'm leaving right after church. So that's our family dynamic. 4 people going to one location. We coming in 4 cars.
Nah, my family, shout out to my mama, my daddy, and my sister. We go together. Look, we're not wasting gas. We are riding together. We might have a story that we need to talk about, a family conversation that needs to be held, and it needs to be held in the same car.
Oh, but I'll never forget when I was dating Talisha and I went with her to church. I went with them to church one day in the same car. And like they said, we all going in one car. And then we get in the car and Mrs. Payne, best mother-in-law in the world, by the way, she says, she tells Mr. Payne, we got choir rehearsal after the service today. And he looked at her. I ain't never seen no eyes so big and wide. He's like, I sure wish you would have told me that before. I sure would have went separate in my truck. And that's what happens when you all go in the same spot.
Hey, whatever. But guess what? As our family grows, we will continue to ride in the same car because
I've given up on that. I was like, man, you take the kids to church. I promise I'll meet y'all over there. But nah, Talisha not going for it. So now that's why we got big minivan.
Oh my gosh, I'm a minivan mom.
I love being a minivan dad.
I'm still dealing with it. I have to deal with it on a daily basis. I'm learning to grow into a minivan mom.
All right, so quick recap. the 5 ultimate challenges you are going to face in your marriage, no matter what, at some stage in your marriage. It is going to be money. It is going to be intimacy. It's going to be communication. It's going to be change that you guys experience, and it's going to be family. Though all those are unavoidable, you will have those at one point in your marriage. And if there's any more, like, hit us up on Instagram at I am Pat Ratliff and the Farm D Money. The Farm D Money. The Farm D Mommy. Hit us up on our Facebook pages at Patrick Ratliff and Talisha Payne Ratliff. And like, what are we missing? We got money, intimacy, communication, change, and family. Are we missing any more inevitable
good job
challenges that you'll face in your marriage? 'Cause I think we covered them, but if there are more, I would love to see what else are there. So yeah.
Right. And then I hate that it came in at the very end, but I have got to shout out my little sister and my brother-in-law, Ariel and Austin Robinson, because they have a new podcast called Double A Shenanigans. Go follow them, subscribe, comment, share, rate it, review, download, because they are doing the doggone thing.
Super
on Double
fun.
A Shenanigans.
Very, very, very fun. It is full of shenanigans. It is very, very funny. I learned a lot from that first episode, and one day we will do a collaboration. One day we're going to go on that show, because I can't say collaboration.
We will do a collaboration with Double A Shenanigans in the very near future. He's over there crying, y'all. Don't.
I got mush mouth.
You got mush mouth. Don't pick at him too bad. It's okay. I love you.
So I love you too, baby. So speaking on, we got to wrap this bad boy up. Speaking of problems and challenges in your marriage, next week it is on. We are going to be talking about pet peeves, and I've already been creating my list.
As have I.
It is a super long list. It might even be a 2-part show, because I have so many pet peeves.
And no one would believe that. No pet peeves.
We will be telling each other about the pet peeves that we have, and we will be defending our pet peeves, whether they're defensible or not.
Deal.
And I can't wait to see you next week, baby. I love you.
I love you too. It's on. Thank you for listening to On the Up and Up with Patrick and Talisha. For access to all of our episodes, please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you listen to our show. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and we will give you a shout out on our next episode. Stay connected with us on Twitter and Instagram at I am Pat Ratliff and at the Farm D Mommy. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week. God bless.